Hey, what happened?
No, that's when I come to your house.
Oh, okay.
Alright. Bye.
See you. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. And today I have another book review for you. So I'm Shonda, the original Stack Sister, and we're gonna jump into this thing. All right. This is a book about zombies. Zombies. So the book I'm going to be reviewing for you today is Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. Dread Nation is a historical fiction. It takes place during Reconstruction, right after the American Civil War. Most historians would say that this is around 1865 to 1877. The big things that were happening during that time were former slaves, Black people, biracial people were guaranteed the right to be seen as equal by the government. They could vote and all those different things like that. Lots of air quotes in there. One of the big things that I want to talk about that relates to book and Reconstruction is this underlying societal conversation and grappling intellectually and every day with what does it mean to have voting rights? What is democracy, citizenship, and all these, these very big, complex things were all in the forefront of people's minds because it was right after the Civil War. I think that's a good thing to know or consider as you're reading the book, especially because as you listen to some of the situations or see the way that some characters talk or some of their thinking and ideologies behind things all make sense for what would be Reconstruction. They talk about slavery, right? Like that's a huge piece. If you're gonna talk about the Civil War, if you're gonna talk about Reconstruction, you cannot avoid the conversation of slavery. You cannot avoid racism. And I think that this book did a really good job of interweaving that without the book being solely about that. What I also really love about this book is that it talks about some really big themes and concepts: racism, femininity, feminism, identity politics, identity development, in a way that is not from a white person's point of view. So you're able to see these different themes and these conversations come up from a point of view of a Black woman who is having to interact with or is being confronted with ideologies in these different themes or realms. And I think that that is extremely well done. So what I really love is Jane McKean. Jane McKean is our main character, and she is a force. She's witty, she's smart, she's very feisty. Sis got a mouth on her. Her sarcasm, her snarkiness is just perfect. And I think that that made for a really, really good main character. And also, sis was stubborn. She was. And I will say it, she was stubborn. She was. But I think that her stubbornness is what really propelled her through the book. The school she went to is kind of like combat training school for Black girls specifically. And basically they're learning how to fight, they're learning how to do all these other things to protect white people, to be somebody's attendant, aka their maid. And be able to fight off zombies for the white people who, God forbid, they have to fight and do it themselves. Homegirl's not here for it. She ain't here for it, right? Like, she's really good at the fighting part and everything like that, but when it comes to learning etiquette and things like that, she's just not with it because it doesn't align with her personality. So that is also where we meet her I like to call her frenemy, Catherine, who she calls Kate. And so what I love about Catherine's character is her character development was spot on. I feel like I learned so much about her throughout the entire book. Throughout the book, she constantly proved the reader wrong. You kept making assumptions about Catherine, and then she would do something that's like, oh, okay, didn't know you had that in you. I appreciated what that character did for the richness of the story. So yeah, Jane hates Catherine. And I think that brings in the other biggest theme of the book. Feminism, but also the conversation of what does it mean to be ladylike? What does it mean to be, what is the ideal standard for women identified folk? I wholeheartedly think that the reason that Jane hates Catherine at the beginning of the book is because of Catherine's feminine expression and the fact that that expression is aligned through and through with white feminine expression. What does it mean to be a black woman during Reconstruction is very different than what does it mean to be a white woman during Reconstruction. And I think that is why Jane hates Catherine, because she sees her and loathes that Catherine aspires to this unattainable, in some regards, right? Because Catherine can pass. And so this unattainable goal of femininity that, right, like white feminine expression, white femininity, white feminism is through and through exclusionary. Another thing I will say about Jane and Kate's relationship, specifically towards the end of the book, is that I think that their relationship is a really good representation of friendship, especially the way that they both had to compromise and give and take for their friendship, their relationship to work. They depended heavily on each other, and I think that was it. Even though I don't think that was an intended theme or storyline or like takeaway from the book, I think that it is extremely rich. That development was in itself very profound. I love Black women friendship books or Black women friendships inside of books, because I think that we don't get enough representation of what those friendships could look like in the different ways that they can exist and develop. So also about this book, it's a horror book, but not because of the zombies. The horror part of this comes with the dehumanization of a people. And I think that this was really well done in the book, right? The conversation of assimilation schools for Native folk, re-education schools for Black people. It was just a really, it was a cringing feeling. What also comes into the conversation is bravery in the face of that horror, right? What happens when these, right, like things are atrocities in our society are faced with the bravest of the bravest, someone who's willing to challenge, willing to put their life on the line in order to not let this thing continue. I love the fact that I listened to this on audiobook. I was able to immerse myself a little bit more because the writing, the usage of the Southern, really rich drawl, listening to the audiobook just kind of added to being able to immerse myself into the story and into the time period. So the thing I'll end with is Daniel Redfern, the Native man who was an attendant or worked with the mayor. I want more from his character. I want to know what this man's deal is, because I think that he is just like Jane and playing the part to survive, So all in all, Dread Nation is a kick-ass book. Thank you for tuning in with me. As always, subscribe and vibe with me. And we're gonna keep reading. So see ya.